time anything. It'll all be over in like 20 minutes. You can return to your lives. One way or another. All right.
We'll play one shining moment.
I want us to play.
Jason, you said? All right. This is the final round. Packet 15, toss-up 1. Another culture's oculate being inspired the killer whale image of this people, who used horango wood extensively in the room of the posts at a major ceremonial center. These people circulated water in underground aqueducts by channeling wind down spiral chimneys known as pukios. Pilgrimage routes to this people's religious center of Kahuachi may have been highlighted by removing red rocks to create enormous geoglyphs.
Yes.
That's right, for 10. In this film, the camera often pans over enigmatic murals painted by a mostly silent artist named Willie, who is played by Janice Rule, for 10 each. Name this film from the 1970s that centers on the relationship between Millie Lamoureux and her roommate Pinky, who is portrayed by Sissy Spacek.
3 Women.
That's right. 3 Women was directed by this filmmaker who also directed Gosford Park and Nashville.
Altman.
That's right. In 3 Women, Pinky goes into a coma after jumping into one of these locations. The opening shot of Sunset Boulevard shows William Holden face down in one of these.
Swimming pool.
You get 30, toss up. A chapter in this book opens with 2 characters getting ice cream from Edna Finch's mellow house so they can look at men, including a pool haunt nicknamed Ajax. In this novel, Mr. Finley's death from choking on a chicken bone. Power. This magazine was founded in 1893 by its namesake, an Irish-born publisher who had established a namesake newspaper syndicate in the previous decade. For 10 each, name this magazine, which published Ida Tarbell's History of the Standard Oil Company. Yes. This author moved to New York City in 1906 to work for McClure. She later ghost wrote Samuel McClure's autobiography.
I don't know, someone famous probably.
Answer.
Adams.
It's Willa Cather. While this author was in prison in 1899, McClure's published his Whistling Dick's Christmas Stocking. He later wrote The Ransom of Red Chief.
Henry.
You get 20. Toss up. One of these 2 products was given preferential status to French goods in the Methuen Treaty, which allowed payment for one of them with the other.
Cloth wine.
I'll prompt you.
Portuguese wine, English cloth.
Power. You're bonus. The longest criminal jury trial in the history of the U.S. federal court system ended in 1987 with the conviction of over a dozen mafia defendants, for 10 each. The case was popularly named for this food, as it involved drug smuggling through East Coast restaurants that served this item.
Sure, that sounds good to me. Pasta.
Pizza. This federal prosecutor worked on the Pizza Connection trial. He later served as director of the FBI under Bill Clinton, during which time he oversaw the Unabomber investigation. Answer.
Star.
Free. This man, who was U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York at the time, also worked on the case. He was elected mayor of New York on an anti-crime platform in 1993. Answer.
Giuliani.
That's right, you get 10. Toss up. One man in this film describes a mobile above a crib from which hung the words homosexual and transsexual. Directory notes such as unassigned and sick leave are used to create a list of 87 names in this film, in which a gift of a catechism is given to the Jewish Marty Baron by a man who covered up the acts of John Gagans.
This is Spotlight.
That's right, for 10. You're bonus. This man wrote about playing a Dungeons & Dragons character named Olvok as a teenager in his book Zombie Spaceship Wasteland. For 10 each, named his comedian who played Spence Olchin on The King of Queens. A stand-up special centering on him is subtitled Talking for Clapping. Answer. It's Patton Oswalt. On this HBO series that satirizes politics, Oswalt has appeared as a man named Teddy, who molests an obnoxious staffer named Jonah. That's right. Oswalt played talk show host Baxter Sarno on this prequel to Battlestar Galactica, which is named for the planet on which humans lived prior. You get 20. Toss up. The Tilly Zex model describes this phenomenon in thin films that are used in a namesake kind of low-power, non-volatile RAM. The Burns temperature marks a phase transition in materials exhibiting the relaxor type of this phenomenon. A Sawyer Tower circuit measures the hysteresis of this phenomenon, in which a material is spontaneously polarized in the absence of an electric field. For 10 points, name this phenomenon the electric analog.
Ferroelectricity.
10. Good bonus. For 10 each, answer the following about coordinates in astronomy. A coordinate system often used for solar system objects is based on this projected path of the sun on the celestial sphere. It passes through the zodiac. Yes. The equatorial coordinate system uses declination and this other azimuthal coordinate. It's the eastward angular distance from the first point of Aries.
I'm pretty sure it's right ascendant.
Yes. Gerard de Vaucouleurs created this construct to define the fundamental plane of the largest of the widely used celestial coordinates. This construct is defined by the great attractor and various superclusters.
The local group.
Answer. It's the supergalactic plane. You get 20. Toss up. This artist put blue and green zigzags over a blob of mythological forms in his work Oedipus, which he painted around the time he wrote the essays posthumously published as The Artist's Reality. He conveyed emotions with blurred shapes in pieces dubbed multiforms after abandoning the surrealism of works like Slow Swirl at the Edge of the Sea. This man used layered rectangles to That's right, for 10.
Oh.
The Chinese name for this river, Hailongjiang, translates as Black Dragon River. For 10 each, named this 10th longest river in the world, which forms much of the northeastern part of the border between China and Russia. Yes. This Russian oblast is currently planning a bridge across the Amur to link one of its towns with the Chinese city of Tongjiang. This oblast, created under Stalin to pacify minorities, is governed from Azerbaijan. Yes.
Yeah.
The Japanese name for Sakhalin Island, Karafuto, means island in the estuary of the Amur River in the language of this indigenous ethnicity native to Sakhalin and Hokkaido. 30. Toss-up. The victims of a scandal involving this agreement told Seville Davis not to publicize it. This agreement's negotiations took place at a round table between square tables. Walt Rostow's X envelope contained information on the roles of John Tower and Anna Chenault in trying to sabotage an early...
The Paris Peace Accords.
10, your bonus. Iyasu V's deposition and this ruler's ascent were secured by the Battle of Sagale, where Mikhail of Wallo was captured. For 10 each, name this Nagiste Nagest, who supported the reforms of Rastafari Makonnen, including entry into the League of Nations. Answer. It's Zuditu. Zuditu and Tafari, who was crowned Haile Selassie I, were part of this Ethiopian ruling house named for the legendary father of Menelik I.
Solomon?
Yes. Mikhail of Wallo fought under Menelik II at this 1896 battle where his Oromo cavalry shouted, "Reap, reap," while destroying an Italian brigade. You get 20. Toss up. This work declares that a man who believes things only because his pastor says them is a heretic in the truth. This work states there must be many schisms and many dissections before the house of God can be built, and compares truth to the scattered pieces of Osiris's body. This work, which declares the state shall be my governors but not my critics, says he who destroys a good... You get 10. Toss up. Or bonus. Beryllium oxide is used in some thermoluminescent examples of these devices. For 10 each, name these devices, which include ion chambers and film badges. They measure the amount of incoming ionizing radiation to which an object or person is exposed. That's a dosimeter.
Oh.
Dosimeter are thus similar to these devices, which often produce audible clicks as they measure the amount of ionizing radiation. That's right. This is the SI-derived unit of effective radiation dose. NASA astronauts were limited to an accumulated value of 1 of these.
Yes.
Answer. That's a Siebert, you get 10. Toss up. A cluster compound is stable if there are M plus N plus O of these things by the MNO rule. There are N plus 1 skeletal examples of these things in a closoborane. The plus 1 oxidation state of thallium is stable due to an effect where one of these...
A lone pair.
I can accept that for power. Sista, a city in the metropolitan area of this world capital, is sometimes called Chipsta, or its country Silicon Valley, for its large number of tech startups. For 10 each, name the city whose unicorns include Spotify, the world's largest music streaming site. Answer. That's Stockholm. The most profitable tech company to come out of Sweden made this video chat service, whose rights were purchased by Microsoft in 2011.
Skype.
Yes. 3 graduates from the University of Stockholm founded this e-commerce Swedish company whose name means clear. Around 40% of all online purchases in Sweden go through this company.
I don't speak Swedish, dude.
Answer, that's Klarna. You get 10. Toss up. This man was the first player to have a sack, forced fumble, and blocked field goal in the same game, which he accomplished in 2011 after gaining playing time due to injuries to Justin Tuck. In February 2017, this man reached a settlement with ESPN, which he sued... That's time minus 5. Sued for privacy violations based on reporting done by Adam Schefter. His right index finger was amputated in 2015 following a 4th of July fireworks accident. For 10 points, name his defensive end who plays for the New York Giants. Time, that's Jason Pierre-Paul. Next toss-up. Jules Delsart made a cello arrangement of a piece in this genre whose third movement, Recitative Fantasia, opens with chords echoing its 9/8 time Allegro ben moderato first movement. A piece in this genre contains an F major andante con variazione that leads into a final movement tarantella in 6/8 time. César Franck composed an A major piece in this genre as a wedding gift for Eugene Izai. For 10 points, identified this genre that includes Beethoven's Kreutzer, written for a string soloist.
Violin sonata.
That's right for 10, your bonus. The title character of one play by this author is a shepherd boy whose murder by a soldier is investigated by a shoemaker named Michael, for 10 each, named this German author of the mystery play Eli, whose poetic works about the Holocaust include Oh, the Chimneys. Nellie Sachs. Sachs is the namesake of the Nellie Sachs Prize, which in 2010 was given to this Canadian novelist of The Handmaid's Tale.
Atwood.
Yes. Sachs was friends with this author who wrote about one of his meetings with Sachs in the poem Zurich, the Stork Inn. Another of his poems ends by contrasting the golden hair of Margareta with the ashen hair of Shulamite. Answer. It's Paul Celan, you get 10, and that's the F.
All right, I'll confirm the official score: 185 Michigan, 100 Northwestern, through 11 toss-ups.
Yeah, I know. I hit the 10 twice after that, but sorry.
185, 100. This will be toss-up 12.
I only have 10 topics before the second question.
So, an audience
Yeah,
member
so I'm gonna just keep
a little louder. But I
rip the likes. I mean, it makes sense. It's just sad. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about this. I think you're all excited. One of my friends posted it.
All right, do you guys have any comments or comments? No more sports. Problem. Same question for you guys.
Granted, I think there's friends. Someone who played.
I have here.
Wow.
All right, everybody be quiet. We'll start the second half. We'll be going into toss-up 12. You guys ready? Yep. You guys ready? All right, toss-up. In his youth, this future ruler was taught by the Swiss Republican philosophe Frédéric César de la Harpe. Early in his reign, Pavel Stroganov and Nikolai Novosintsev formed the nucleus of his unofficial committee. This ruler, who made free plowmen a class of citizens, had his liberal statesman, Mikhail Speransky, submit a constitution that would have created numerous dumas. After his death, the Decembrist uprising broke out. For 10 points, Albrand. That's right, Gordon. In this artist's essay, Specific Objects, he wrote, the form of a work of art and its materials are closely related, for 10 each. Named a sculptor, many of whose works consist of a series of boxes of stacked plexiglass or other materials. Answer. Judd. Donald Judd is often said to be a member of this art movement, though he decried it for being too much a feat of ideation. In music, this movement includes Terry Riley.
Minimalist.
Yes. This artist who incorporated rust into such pieces as tilted art is generally grouped with the minimalists. Sarah. You get 20. Toss up. Immediately outside of this city is a basaltic structure named Cave Hill with an outcrop nicknamed Napoleon's Nose. Falls Road and Shankill Road are streets in this city that are divided by so-called peace lines. This city on the river Lagan was once known as Linopolis due to its extensive linen production. In this city, the shipbuilders Harland and Wolff constructed the RMS Titanic. The Good Friday
Belfast.
That's right, for 10. Psychologist Diana Baumrind describes 3 different styles of doing this thing as permissive, authoritarian, and authoritative. For 10 each, named this task that usually takes multiple years. A best-selling guide to this task was written by Benjamin Spock.
Harrington.
Yes. This theory by John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth posits that a person's relationships tend to be secure or insecure depending on the parenting they got.
Attachment.
Yes. D.W. Winnicott proposed that a mother's nurture creates this sort of space where bodily integrity and safety are assumed, which is then extrapolated outwards later in life. Answer. A holding environment, you get 20. Toss up. A character in this play recounts nights in which he and Minnie had golden moments at 50 cents a bottle in a speech that ends with the ringing of an alarm clock. In this play, a letter with a photo showing Cornelius's foot is sent by Ethel, who later reveals her engagement to Lucky Man Stoffel. Using an umbrella, Morris beats a man. That's right, for 10. In red blood cells, Pappenheimer bodies are granules containing this substance, for 10 each, named this element that can be visualized using Prussian blue. Yes. This 4-subunit protein binds oxygen to iron atoms on 4 prosthetic groups. Its variants include fetal and sickle. Yes. Oxidative stress can cause hemoglobin to precipitate into these inclusions. They cause the characteristic bite cell seen in G6PD deficiency.
They're called histiocytes.
Heinz bodies, you get 20. Toss up. Before this speech was given, James Killian suggested the word scientific be removed from it. Ideas from editor Norman Cousins were incorporated into this speech by Malcolm Moose. This speech urges that democracy not become the insolvent phantom of tomorrow, and bemoans how a government contract may become virtually a substitute for intellectual curiosity. The armaments industry was criticized.
Eisenhower's farewell address.
That's right, for 10. The Apennine Mountains can be seen in the background of this painting, which also depicts a dirt road and a stone arch on its right side, for 10 each, in this 1826 painting of the remains of the Via Flaminia over the Nera River in central Italy.
Bridge of Narni.
The bridge at Narni. Other landscapes by this French painter of the bridge at Narni include recollections of Montfortin and view of the forest at Fontainebleau. Yes. Corot's plein air landscapes helped lay the groundwork for this French art movement. Its member Alfred Sisley painted many scenes of bridges, such as footbridge at Argenteuil. You get 20. Toss up. The minimum form of this concept holds that a parent group must be of the same or lower rank than a derived group. The strict view of it was championed by Ville Hennick, who described how groups with this property can have synapomorphies. Hennick also rejected the use of this property for the species concept. The protist kingdom lacks this property, which defines a clade. A taxon that includes an ancestor and all its children has, for 10 points, what? 10. For 10 each, name these Asian leaders who attended the Paris Peace Conference. This first president of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam attended the talk. Saigon was named after him after its capture. Yes. This man attended the Conference of Lawrence of Arabia, with whom he worked during the Arab Revolt. He signed an agreement with Chaim Weizmann in 1919 and was given rule over a British mandate following the Cairo Conference. Answer. Sorry?
Muhammad.
It's Faisal. This Korean activist lobbied for his country's independence from Japan at the conference. After failing to broker Korea's unification, he was kidnapped by North Korea in 1950 and presumed dead.
President of Korea, what's his name? Yes. Syngman Rhee.
No, it's Kim Kyu-sak. You get 10. Toss-up. The first words in this story are exchanged after dusk by two men, one of whom claims that a woman's cloak alone must have cost 80 rubles. One character in this story is beaten for trying to seduce the wife of a German tinsmith. A painter cuts his own throat in this story after pursuing a dark-haired beauty who turns out to work in a brothel. The fates...
Nevsky prospect.
That's right, for 10. It's a bonus. This term is often used to describe a step in the Hartree method in which a many-electron wave function is replaced by a product of one-electron wave functions. For 10 each, give the German term for an educated guess used to tackle a complicated problem. Yes. The Bethe-Ansatz was first used to solve this model, consisting of a chain of spin one-half particles with nearest neighbor interactions and periodic boundary conditions. The spins can point in any direction. Answer. Heisenberg. This physicist became interested in the Bethe-Ansatz near the end of his life. He shared a Nobel with Julian Schwinger and Shinichiro Tomonaga for creating quantum electrodynamics. Answer. You get 20. Toss-up. In this group's origin story, the air spirit people are led through 4 worlds by first man and first woman. In this people's myth system, changing woman grows to puberty in a few days, and the sun impregnates her and white shell woman with the monster slayer twins. The Dine Bahane is the origin. That's right, for 10. Davy and Donnie use shoe polish to disguise a cat as Patrick's dead pet. In this play writes the Lieutenant of Inishmore, for 10 each, named this dramatist who also wrote The Cripple of Inishmaan. Answer. McDonough. That's right. McDonough's contemporaries included Brian Friel, who depicted the lives of the destitute Mundy sisters in this play named for a Celtic harvest festival. Answer.
Dancing at Lughnasadh.
That's right. Dancing at Lughnasadh premiered at this Dublin theater in 1990. In 1907, John Millington Synge's The Playboy of the Western World caused riots here. Answer. You get 30. Toss up. This institution is the subject of Barbara Rosenwein's book, Rhinoceros Bound, whose name comes from a life of St. Gerald authored by one of its leaders. A translation of the Quran was commissioned by its leader, Peter the Venerable.
Clooney.
That's right, for power. This president's economic minister, Raymond Barre, advocated lower taxes and less intervention, except for promotion of select national champions in industry, for 10 each, named this French president, who went back on previous friendship and gifts to Jean Bedel Bokassa by organizing Operation Barracuda. Answer. That's right. This name is given to the period of almost continuous growth for the French economy from World War II through the mid-70s, which ended during Giscard's administration.
That sounds good. Or something like that. Amount of time? 30 years.
Answer.
30 years miracle.
30 glorious years. He scarred lost power after this politician challenged him from the right by forming the Rally for the Republic Gaullist faction. He was president of France from 1995 to 2007. Answer. You get 20 on that. Toss up. In January 2017, Robert Holland grouped these things with guns and games of gotcha in an op-ed for The Hill explaining how the left whiffed. A claim about these things prompted a PolitiFact article on a fence in the town of Wapiti. A reference to Senator Mike Enzi of Wyoming preceded the mention of these creatures.
Grizzly bears.
That's right, for 10. The North Koreans of the Siphnian treasury at Delphi depict this conflict for 10 each. Name this conflict in which Clytius, Mimas, and Pallas were killed by the gods. That's right. This goddess killed Clytius with her torches. This triune goddess of magic is said to embody the full, half, and new moon. Yes. The greatest of the giants were Alcyonus and this one, who tried to rape Hera during the Gigantomachy. He was only killed after Zeus struck him with a thunderbolt.
Pass.
Okay, that's Peripheron 20. Toss up. This author wrote about seeing the stars Bellatrix and Rigel gleam out of deep pits in a poem about walking home from viewing the Duchess of Malfi. That poem appears in the collection by this man, whose second section ends with a magpie's song about the color turquoise blue. That book by this poet explains that its title refers to an old new name for the continent based on North. That's right, for 10, and your bonus. A poem by this author laments that his friends forsake him like a memory lost and proclaims that he is the self-consumer of his woes, for 10 each. What romantic poet of I Am was a laborer who spent the last decades of his life in an asylum?
Claire.
That's right. Claire wrote that he gave his name immortal birth and kept my spirit with a free in a poem with this title, which also names a work by William Butler Yeats that explains his theory of the phases of the moon.
Oh, maybe that's not in a vision. I don't know. What else would it be?
Answer.
A vision.
That's right. The major modern biography of Claire is by Jonathan Bate, who more recently has written an unauthorized life of this poet who was married to Sylvia Plath. Yeah, you get 30. Toss up. An essay by psychologist Daniel Gilbert endorses this philosopher's model of belief, under which comprehending an idea entails accepting that idea. This man's view that the human mind is the idea of the human body is applied to neurology in a book by Antonio Damasio, whose title refers to looking for this man. The mind exhibits 3 primary affects and a type of striving called conatus. 10, and your bonus. For 10 each, answer the following about the founder of the journal News, the Guatemalan-American philosopher Hector Neri Castaneda. Castaneda's mentors included this author of Empiricism and the Philosophy of Mind, who built up the philosophy faculty at the University of Pittsburgh.
Sellers.
Yes. Castaneda distinguished practitions from these simple claims that each have a truth value. Unlike predicate logic, the form of logic named for these claims lacks quantifiers.
Propositions.
Yes. This theory, in which the namesake perceptions of objects are linked by sameness relations, such as consubstantiation, is Castaneda's main contribution to ontology. Answer. That's Guy's theory. You get 20, and that's the end of the
Final score is 420 to 10. Michigan wins against Northwestern, although I think you can tell. It's not like I needed to say it. I feel like that was self-evident. Hey. Alright.
Brian, you
Ooh, running.
Something I don't care about.
Alright.